Thursday night basketball. The Illini better bring it because I know Nebraska will.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another daily edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me on all your favorite social medias. Do a quick search for Locked On Illini. Send me a message. Say hello. Say something nice. Just keep it constructive. That's all I ask. Thank you all so much for supporting this program. We hit over 2,000 subscribers over the weekend. So if you're not already subscribed, go double check while you're watching the show and hit that like button while you're at it. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So Thursday, we're going to have Illinois versus Nebraska. Nebraska, a team that's reeling a little bit, but as I usually do right before the game, I want to bring on somebody who can scout Nebraska for us. So we're Illinois fans, obviously, and so I don't know how high of a priority it is to watch Nebraska basketball each and every game. So why not bring an expert on? And for this, I bring Blake from the Scarlet Shoot Around pod. Blake, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here. And I think I was on your guys' program, maybe under a different nomenclature last year, but a little bit more exciting of a game back then, as I think it went into overtime maybe, or you guys won it at the buzzer. I don't quite remember, but I went to that game in Champaign and was treated very well. So I have a soft spot in my heart for the Illini.
Love to hear it. Yeah, that was Illini Cast, my other Illini show. That's a little bit more long form than what I do here at Locked On. But by the way, those of you who are watching who don't know of Illini Cast, find that on YouTube as well. We try to knock out a show about once a week. So Blake, I know it's been a rough start to the season, but I need to ask, are you guys missing Tominaga as much as the rest of the Big Ten is missing Tominaga?
Well, I think there's a really deep emotional connection to Kesei Tominaga and what he brought for the fan experience and, frankly, the winning experience. And the fans are obviously missing him, like I said, from an emotional standpoint, but most definitely from an X's and O's standpoint as well, as I'm sure we'll get into talking about it. But Nebraska this year ranks 16th in the conference in three-point percentage, and there's a glaring hole in perimeter shooting on this team.
Again, you don't have to tell us about unfortunate three-point percentage. You're 16, we're 17 at three-point percentage right now. The difference between Illinois is that's all we shoot, which, should be interesting. I guess, let's just kind of get right into it. Nebraska, if you look at the numbers, they're kind of the inverse of Illinois. Illinois refuses to let you shoot three-pointers. All they want you to do is take tough, difficult two-pointers. And if you make them, you earned it. That's fine, but you expended energy, and Illinois' goal is to fast track to the other end and try to respond with a three-pointer of their own. But Nebraska, they'll let you shoot the three, and they actually don't want you to take the inside shots. Is that a fair scouting report?
Yeah, so we're running the same schematic defense that we did last year, albeit last year with much higher level of success, to where Nebraska will force you along the baseline, use the baseline as a third defender and double team so as to try to force turnovers. Last year, it was very effective, and this year it has been putrid, as there have been calls amongst the fan base to change the schematics. There's a lot of different opinions as to why this team defensively is not nearly as good as last year's, especially when this team approached, and really Fred Hoiberg has approached this program now over the last 2-3 years as being a defense first team. That has not happened this year. And again, a lot of opinions. Some people think it's due to effort. Some people think it's due to toughness, including Fred himself, that's a quote that he said multiple times in his post-game press conferences. I myself am a believer that this roster just wasn't constructed in a way to run this scheme very well. And you can take it a million different ways, but opponents are taking a lot of threes against the Huskers, as we are dead last or highest defense in the Big Ten Conference in 3 points attempted per field goal attempted in the Big Ten. And we are also last in defensive three-point percentage. So that's not a recipe for success.
So let's talk about, obviously Tominaga is gone, but that doesn't mean that Nebraska doesn't have some good quality players on their team. Bryce Williams, what a jump he's made this year. Can you tell the Illinois crowd here a little bit about his game?
Yeah, he's really transformed himself, at least, or so we thought, coming into Big Ten Conference play, from being more of a a slightly versatile secondary-ish player, off-ball guy from Tominaga last year to really taking the reins of this offense this year. And he really excelled. He was on the fast track to being a first-team All-Big Ten guy up and through all of the non-conference. I think he was averaging damn close to 20 points a game. And since conference play has really started, especially when Nebraska headed into Purdue on January 12th, about, call it 3 weeks ago, his game has drastically declined, both in scoring and efficiency. So he's not a great defender. He's okay. But he's been asked to kind of take the reins of this offense. And again, it looked great up through the first third of the season. And because Big Ten defenses have realized that he's the main threat and there really aren't a whole lot of other threats, let alone multi-level threats on Nebraska's offense, he's found himself really struggling as of late.
Like, would you mind telling the crowd here what kind of offense should Illinois look forward to be up against? Obviously, Tomislav Ivisic, Brad Underwood said on Wednesday he's going to miss the game against Nebraska again. And usually when a team like what happened against Maryland, which apparently, all of college basketball rejoiced in Illinois' loss against Maryland. Maryland had, Derek Queen, Julian Reese going at the lack of big men that Illinois has when Ivisic is gone. Do you think this is going to be a cause of concern at all from Nebraska?
Well, it's definitely going to help. I think that goes without saying. But Nebraska, through the course of this season, in the however many 15, 16, 17 games they've played to this point, they've found the most success on offense by getting to the free throw line. As there's a lot of red on our KenPom chart, but they are 9th in the conference offensively in getting to the free throw line. So, they're not a great free throw shooting team, albeit as they're only shooting 68.6% from the line in conference play. But that's where the majority of Nebraska's successful offense is going to stem from. So Illinois losing Ivisic will definitely help in that regards in driving, as this team is not a great three-point shooting team. As I mentioned, Connor Segan is kind of the go-to three-point guy on this team, and has elements of Tominaga in his game, although he's not nearly as big of a shot creator. But I think a lot of people would say that he's almost just as good of a pure shooter, just more, of a set shooter as opposed to creating. So this team has some threats, and Bryce Williams, again, a lot of his game is focused on getting to the line, although he has not been doing that much, again, as of late, which I think has in turn affected those efficiency numbers like we've seen. But we'll see if Nebraska is able to get something going downstairs in the paint. They haven't really trended to do as well, especially, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they've missed a lot of their bunnies and layups. That number's on Torvik, again, just not in front of me. So, there's just not a lot of positives to say about Nebraska's offense. So it's hard to say, but anytime an Illini potential All Big Ten honoree is out, then that can only benefit Nebraska.
I will say, you guys had some impressive wins. You beat Indiana at home. You beat UCLA, who has really turned things around as of late, 66-58. So you have some impressive wins, but obviously 6 losses in a row now. Now, granted, some games were at Mackey, where a lot of teams get blown out. But what do you think has happened in the last 6 games that wasn't clicking before?
Well, it's really easy. And some people will tell you, the offense has struggled and this and that. But this team, again, came into the season, and Fred Hoiberg had said multiple times that this is going to have to be a gritty, defense-first, grinded out type of team that's going to keep teams in the 60s and the low 70s. And that's kind of the formula to win, Big Ten games as they go into the season. Well, they did well through the months of November and December, and that has totally fallen off a cliff, as I think Fred has trotted out a new starting lineup in 3 or the past 4 games, maybe. He's really looking for anything at this point that he can find toughness with this team, any kind of lineup, any kind of strategy, any kind of schematics. And that's really what has caused this team so many problems, is they're not closing out possessions. They're giving up a lot of rebounds on the defensive end. They're struggling in the realm of shooting. But a lot of it comes down to defense. And if you've watched any Nebraska basketball, which, again, I wouldn't fault any of the Illini fans for not, as it's been pretty ugly as of late. But the toughness, and again, that's Fred Hoiberg's word. The toughness has not been there on this team. And there's a lot of question about drive. There's a lot of question about want to. In his press conference today, Fred talked about the difficulties of getting out of this rut. And he said there's been a lot of deep conversations with the roster and what they could still accomplish in this year. So it's been a very introspective last week or two for Nebraska basketball, because they had everything in front of them after that UCLA win that you talked about. As some forums were projecting them as a 7 to 8 seed, and now they're pretty far out of the tournament for most places you look. So it's so hard to tell, but the mainstay has been the defense, as the defensive numbers are putrid. Nebraska, again, last in the conference in 3-point defense, 14th in the conference in 2-point defense. 17th in the conference in defensive effective field goal percentage. And without a semi-capable offense, which this team doesn't have, that's the recipe for what we've seen as of late in a lot of blowouts.
Blake, I appreciate your time. Can you let the crowd here know again where they can find your work?
Yeah, so we're I think just this past year, we've become the most followed and listened to Nebraska basketball podcast. So that's been exciting. We're in our second year of running. If you ever are interested in what's going on with Nebraska basketball, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on Twitter, our main social media medium at Scarlet Shoot Pod. On Apple or Spotify, you can look us up at Scarlet Shoot Around Podcast.
Blake, I appreciate you coming on, and good luck every game except for Thursday.
Anything to get off this 6-game schneid, man. It's becoming harder and harder to follow this team.
I appreciate you. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans are unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory I'll never forget. This year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I use Game Time Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview the view from my spot before buying. The all-in pricing is a game changer, no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, knowing my tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. I did want to spend 1 second really quick and just show some appreciation for those of you who listen to this on your favorite audio platform. I referenced the YouTube 2,000 subscribers mark, and I believe we're on our way to hit 2,100. I mentioned that almost every single episode, but our audio downloads have rocketed up as of late. And I just wanted to, all the new subscribers to Locked On Illini, just let you guys know that I sincerely appreciate you. If you're listening to this on audio, find us on YouTube. If you're a YouTube watcher, you know what? Download the audio podcast as well, and that way you can listen to this show on your way to or coming back from work. So Illinois versus Nebraska, 7:30 on Thursday. I believe it's on Fox Sports 1. From what I saw, Illinois opened up as a 2.5-point favorite, and I'm going to tell you guys, Locked On Illini Nation, I'm a little nervous about this game. Nebraska is a team that Illinois should beat soundly, but I've only had this level of confidence this season. I've seen it happen against USC, and I even thought that we would be beating Maryland. Sure, things changed a little bit when I found out Avicic was gone, but as I've said this before on this channel, Illinois is just one of those teams where those peaks are high and those valleys are low, and I'm very paranoid that Thursday night could be one of those games where it just ends up being one of those disaster performances. Nebraska, regardless of having lost 2 straight at home, always is a tough place to play in Lincoln. And Illinois themselves, it's going to be an interesting matchup because, as you heard from the first segment, the way they play defense is kind of inverse of one another. Illinois runs you off the 3-point line because they want you to shoot tough 2-pointers, whereas Nebraska's kind of the complete opposite. They'll let you shoot the 3, and let's be honest, we here know that Illinois does not mind shooting the 3-pointer at all. Some argue they shoot it too much. Brad Underwood will disagree, and he'll say just keep shooting it. But I'll be honest, I would not be surprised if Illinois ends up shooting 40 plus 3-pointers on Thursday night, just because Nebraska is going to let them. The question is, are those 3-pointers going to fall? Are they going to be makes or not? This is a game where, honestly, I see 2 outcomes. Either another Illinois 20-plus point victory, a 20-plus point conference victory on the road, looking very impressive, or a Nebraska win. And that's frightening because Nebraska right now is fighting for their life. And especially when it comes to the new Big Ten, especially with 18 teams, as some of you know, most of you probably know, not every team is going to make the Big Ten tournament. And from what I saw, Nebraska is currently second to last in the Big Ten Conference. And with that being the case, well, this becomes almost a must-win game for the Huskers. And this is a team that is going to put forth its best effort. And we've seen what happens with the Illini. They will show up some games and just you feel like they're sleepwalking through the game. I hope that Thursday night that's not going to be one of the issues. The other thing, again, I worry about is if Illinois shoots the three-pointer 40 times, there's a chance they only make 8 of them. There's a chance they only make 9 or 10 of them. And so then what happens, right? Then the key is going to be Kasparis for me. I talked to Blake about this a little bit. The good thing about this game on Thursday night is they don't really have an inside game that's going to worry me too much, about Ivisic being gone. This is a team that's not really built to take advantage of the absence of a guy like Tommy, but does Morez Johnson stay out of foul trouble? I think that's going to be one of the keys. Can Kasparis stay out of foul trouble? Because quite honestly, Nebraska has nobody on their team that can guard Kasparis. Most of the country doesn't have anyone that can guard Kasparis, but we're going to need a big Kasparis game. I truly believe that. We're going to need our Ben Humrickhouse, Trey White, Kylan Boswell. All these guys are going to get open shots from three-point land. Are they going to go in or not? Again, if they go in, I see a big blowout, 20-plus points. Are they not going to go in? I can absolutely see Nebraska coming out with the victory. And quite honestly, when I saw that Vegas opening line, my guess was the line would have come Illinois maybe -5. The fact that it came out to -2.5, and we know Illinois fans are going to bet that up. I'm very curious to see if that line moves at all, because Vegas, again, I say this all the time, they don't build new casinos every other month because they lose money. They know what they're doing. And I think Illinois is in for a fight on Thursday night. And this is not a game that I'm at all in any sort of way taking for granted. There's no game on Illinois' schedule that Illinois should be taking for granted. The key matchup for me and the key matchup for everybody is who guards Bryce Williams, Nebraska's best player. Size-wise, it would make sense if it's Trey White. Trey White is a good defender. I can't imagine you'd want to throw Ben Humrickhouse against Bryce. So, how does Trey handle that matchup? If Trey can bottle up Bryce, as Blake said, Nebraska really doesn't have many other options. And so if Trey can have a good game on the defensive end, then it's going to be hard for Nebraska to score 70, 80 points that it usually takes to beating this Illinois team. But really, I think this is just one of those matchups where Illinois is a favorite and they should be the favorite. But if they barely show up, if they give their C+ performance, they can absolutely lose to this Nebraska team who's, again, essentially fighting for their conference tournament lives right now. They're going to be very desperate, whereas we know Illinois sometimes just kind of sleepwalk through games. And if that's the case on Thursday, then I think we're going to have a very sad and somber therapy session after the game, which I should remind you, of course, after every single game, I do a post-game show right here on Locked On Illini. So make sure you guys are subscribed and hit that notification button so you don't miss a second. Let me know your guys' predictions in the comment section. Illinois win? Illinois win pretty? Illinois win close? Or does Nebraska pull it off? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I did want to, before I let you guys go, take a second to acknowledge Kendall Bostic's breaking the Illini women's record for rebounding. Kendall is such a staple of this program that, she needs to be acknowledged. And I hope that, I wish she played on better teams overall, just because what she's done is just pure consistency. She's someone you can count on to play, 30, 35 minutes every single game, a walking double. She's just been the anchor of this Illini basketball team for so long. And for her to get this achievement, I just wanted to give her a shout. So Kendall Bostic, congratulations on becoming the all-time leading rebounder. Hopefully you'll have some more feats that you can reach in an Illini uniform before your days are done. Speaking of days are done, Kofi Cockburn. It was also announced early on Wednesday that His jersey was going to be honored on note. I said honored, not retired. A lot of the non-Illini content creators and media seem to confuse the process that Illinois athletics goes by. On February 11th, I believe the game is against UCLA, which is fun, because just 4 days later, they're going to be honoring Terrence Shannon Jr. against Michigan State. I'll probably be devoting a segment to Kofi Cockburn at some point in the next week or two, or maybe the day leading up to that game, just because I felt like he's such an important part to this turnaround of this program. And a two-time All-American basketball player at Illinois. I'm glad. I wish his era didn't end essentially right before the NIL era really began, because I think he would have stayed at Illinois longer had he been able to get the financial benefits that today's players do. But regardless, Kofi had one heck of a career at Illinois, and I'm glad that he's going to be honored by it. Thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Shimon puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you all again, and make sure you join me Thursday night immediately after the game. We'll be talking. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating together. Otherwise, we'll have a therapy session together. Either way, I'll see you then. ILL. Love you guys.